What if I told you that the oldest story ever written, and the latest data from our most powerful telescopes, are telling the same story? For centuries we have lived in a house divided. In one room, the sacred texts, speaking of a single divine intention, a cosmic week of creation, a world spoken into existence. In the other, the scientific ledger, speaking of a chaotic explosion, of billions of years of slow, patient stellar evolution. We've been told to choose a side, faith or reason, the Word of God, or the data of Hubble. But what if that choice is an illusion? What if Genesis and the Big Bang are not combatants, but two halves of a single profound cosmic codex, separated only by the language they speak? Stick with me on this journey, and you will see the cosmos in a way you never have before. We are going to peel back the layers of time, not just geological time, but narrative time. We will decode the hidden symbolism buried in the first verses of Genesis and align them, point for point, with the established chronology of our universe's birth. By the end of this, you will possess a key, a way to harmonize these two great origin stories, revealing a hidden knowledge that has been waiting in plain sight for millennia. This isn't about proving one right and the other wrong. This is about discovering the grand, unified truth they both point toward. Let's begin at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The verse is so familiar, its colossal weight almost escapes us. But the next part will surprise you even more. The original Hebrew text describes the early earth as tohu wa bohu. For centuries, this was translated as formless and void, a blank canvas. But a deeper linguistic excavation reveals something far more dynamic, far more violent. Tohu wa bohu carries connotations of chaos, desolation, a roaring, turbulent emptiness. It's not a peaceful nothingness, it's a fermenting nothingness, a seething potential. It is the state of a system before order is imposed. Now put a pin in that. Now let's turn our gaze to science. The Big Bang, the moment of singularity. Not an explosion in space, but the very explosion of space and time itself. For the first fleeting fractions of a second, the entire cosmos was compressed into a point of infinite density and heat. There was no matter as we know it. There was only a seething, bubbling, chaotic ocean of pure energy and nascent forces. Does that description sound familiar? That seething, chaotic potential of the Big Bang's first moment is a near-perfect analog for the tohu wa bohu, the turbulent void of Genesis. Both traditions, in their own language, are describing the same primordial state, the universe as a blank but violently active slate. But the creation narrative doesn't stay in the void for long, and what comes next may change how you see the sky forever. Genesis says, "And God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light, not the sun, not the stars, but light itself, separating the darkness." This has always been a theological puzzle. How can there be light before the light-bearers, the stars? Now step into the laboratory of the early universe. After the initial singularity, the cosmos was an opaque, super-dense fog of energy and fundamental particles. Light, photons, could not travel freely. They were constantly being absorbed and re-emitted. The universe was a blinding, white-hot prison for its own light. But then, about 380,000 years after the Big Bang, a monumental event occurred. Recombination. The universe expanded and cooled enough for atoms to form. Suddenly the photons were set free. The opaque fog cleared, and the universe was flooded with light for the very first time. This is the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in the universe, the echo of that first great flash. This is the scientific, "Let there be light." The Genesis account, in its profound symbolic logic, is placing the emergence of light itself as the first act of cosmic order, precisely mirroring the moment the universe became transparent and was filled with radiant energy. It's not a chronological error. It's a profound insight into the very nature of reality. Energy and information, in the form of light, precedes the structures that will later contain it. And from this foundation of light, the narrative builds. The next revelation uncovers a secret very few people know, hidden in the concept of the firmament. Genesis describes God creating a firmament to separate the waters above from the waters below. To the modern ear, this sounds like ancient cosmology, a solid dome in the sky holding back a celestial ocean. But what if we're reading it too literally? What if the firmament, or rakia in Hebrew, is not a physical structure, but a metaphor for the establishment of dimensional reality and the fundamental forces? The separation of waters above from waters below can be seen as the moment the four fundamental forces of our universe, gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces, began to separate from a single, unified force. This symmetry breaking is a cornerstone of modern physics. It created the architecture of our reality, allowing for the formation of atoms, and later, galaxies and stars. The waters above could symbolize the potential and the laws that govern cosmic structures, gravity, while the waters below represent the potential for condensed matter, planets, and life. The firmament, then, is not a dome of brass, but the very fabric of space-time and the laws that govern it, the invisible lattice upon which the universe is built. With this cosmic architecture in place, the stage is set for the next great act, and what happens next is where the harmony becomes truly breathtaking. After the firmament, the biblical narrative describes the gathering of the waters and the appearance of dry land. This is the emergence of distinct domains, of structure and form from the uniform. Scientifically, this corresponds to the epoch of structure formation. Under the relentless pull of gravity, the slight fluctuations in the density of the primordial universe began to amplify. Vast clouds of hydrogen and helium coalesced, collapsing into the first stars and galaxies. These are the islands of stability in the cosmic ocean. The dry land appearing from the waters is a beautiful allegory for the first stable structures, stars and planetary systems, condensing out of the formless, gaseous nebula of the early universe. It is the universe beginning to organize itself, to create platforms for complexity. And on this new, structured stage, the lights in the firmament are kindled. The sun, the moon, and the stars are appointed in Genesis. Notice the language. It doesn't say created in this act, but made to appear or appointed. Or, this is a crucial, often overlooked detail. From a scientific perspective, the stars had already been shining for hundreds of millions of years by this point. But from the perspective of a potential observer on a newly formed Earth, this is the moment the cosmic fog clears enough, the atmosphere becomes transparent enough for these celestial bodies to become visible, to be appointed as markers for seasons and days. It's about the relationship between the emerging world and the cosmos, not the absolute creation of the cosmic bodies themselves. The narrative is being told from a geocentric, phenomenological perspective, how it would have felt to witness the dawn of a stable Earth. And this shift in perspective is the key that unlocks the entire code. But the story is far from over. The emergence of life in Genesis follows a specific and hauntingly familiar sequence. First, the swarming of creatures in the waters, then the birds of the air, then the creatures on the land. This progression from sea to land is not just poetic. It's a direct mirror of the evolutionary history of life on Earth, as understood by paleontology. The Cambrian explosion, a period of incredible diversification of marine life, corresponds to the swarming of the waters. The later conquest of the land by amphibians, reptiles, and eventually mammals and birds follows the biblical order with an uncanny accuracy. This isn't to say Genesis is a biology textbook. It is a grand symbolic narrative that captures the essential arc of complexification, the journey of life from the simple and aquatic to the complex and terrestrial. It is a mythic map that somehow charts the same territory as the fossil record. And this brings us to the crescendo, the moment of self-awareness, the point where the universe, through us, begins to contemplate itself. The arrival of humanity in the narrative, beings made in the image of the Creator, symbolizes the dawn of consciousness. This is the universe becoming aware of its own existence, capable of asking the very questions we are asking now. Science tells us the story of matter organizing into life, and life evolving a nervous system complex enough to host consciousness, to host a mind that can look back at the stars from which it came and feel a sense of awe. The image of God is that spark of cosmic self-awareness. This is the final and most profound layer of the harmony. The creation story is not just about the origin of the physical cosmos, but about the origin of meaning itself. And the most astonishing part of this entire journey is realizing that we are not merely passengers in this universe, but active participants in its story. We are the universe's way of understanding its own origins. The ancient scribe who penned Genesis and the astrophysicist who analyzes redshift data are, in a very real sense, engaged in the same profound quest. And the implications of this unity stretch far beyond what we've discussed today. Because if Genesis and the Big Bang are two harmonies of the same cosmic chord, what other secrets are waiting to be decoded? What does this unified narrative tell us about our purpose, our place in the cosmos, and the very nature of the reality we inhabit? The journey has only just begun, and the next layer we will uncover, well, that is a revelation for another time.